Thank you so much, Dr. Miller. I'll invite our panelists to come up while I introduce you all. So we're very fortunate here at Emory not only to have a world-renowned hospital, but also a world-renowned school of medicine. But something even more extraordinary about Emory is that we have a consistent recognition that compassion is a vital part of how care is taught, delivered, and lived. What truly distinguishes Emory is the conviction that compassion is necessary to the training of healthcare providers, is as necessary as technical skills or clinical knowledge. So Dr. Lisa Miller will join a panel of leaders at Emory who embody this truth in their work every day, sharing perspectives on the unique ways compassion has been infused into healthcare and medical education here at Emory. And this panel will be moderated by Dr. Bill Eley. Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah. And thank you all for sticking with us. It's been a pretty long, but I will say, incredibly inspiring morning. And I will say over the last 2 days, there are moments in your life in a university or in just your life that you feel awe and you feel inspired. And these last 2 days have been that for me. I've been with the Dalai Lama here. That's inspiring. I've heard Janos Starker play the cello. That's incredibly inspiring. I've listened to our string quartet that's resident here in Emory. It's beautiful. I've had a lot of great experiences, but hearing what has happened with CBCT and C-Learning over the last 22 years, 22 shortly years, the Dalai Lama said it may take centuries to do this, is truly inspiring and I think changing the world. And I'd like to say, Dr. Miller yesterday that described Lobsang, and I will call him Lobsang as if my close friend, they described him as a bulldog for CBCT. You are a bulldog for spirituality. And I use that in the kindest terms, the perseverance, the dedication, the seeking that you two share is coming together on this stage. And so I want to really thank you for being here and sharing that with us, because you've had a hard road. You have persevered and brought this. You've taken the academia a little bit farther than it was willing to go. And so, bless you. In keeping with that, and with this, I'd like to start with just a short meditation. We've done this a lot in public before. We haven't done it over the last 2 days. And I've done this a lot with our medical students and their families. Let's just get in a comfortable position. And I would invite all of us to just let our eyes close or close almost and pay attention to our bodies, to bring us together in this room with our bodies and our minds. As we take a few breaths, realizing it's a great commonality of being a human. Let's think of the oxygen that we're given by our planet, by the plants that live on our planet, and how it nourishes our bodies and minds. And as we let out our breath, let's allow any troubles or anything's bothering us to leave and go out into the atmosphere, so that we are fully present together as we take on these important topics, as we strive to embody compassion in our spirituality and that part of ourselves that we hope to grow. I want all of us to think about now someone in our lives who has nurtured us or inspired us or taught us, and we felt their love. We felt their compassion. Let's just take a moment to think about that person, envision them, think about their kindness. And we may have felt in our body warmth. We may have felt in our minds great gratitude, positive thoughts. Let's start this session today realizing that we benefited from others' kindness, love, and compassion, and that we are gathered here as the next group of people who are doing our very best to continue that. As Lisa has said, carry the torch, if you will. And I hope that brings us into a common space and we can finish this brief meditation with the intent to use everything we've learned over these 2 days and in this talk to the benefit of others, especially those who are suffering and in need of our care. Let's open our eyes now, come back into the room. Thank you for joining me in that. Dr. Miller could tell us a lot about how we just synced up together in our minds. You may have also felt a tear, as I sometimes do when I go there, but I think of these people who care for us. But that's what this is about today. This is about those of us who have dedicated our life to caring for others. And what role does spirituality and compassion have in that? Everyone knows the man at the end of the I'm going to have him a special question in a minute. You've just gotten to hear from Dr. Miller, but I want Maureen Shelton introduce herself and tell a little bit about her role in bringing compassion into our world. And then I'll ask Chris the same thing. So Maureen, please.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for the beautiful meditation. And thank you so much for your beautiful work and for your talk today as well as your book. It's a great contribution and a great support for my profession as a chaplain and a chaplain educator. My name again is Maureen Shelton, and I have the privilege of serving as the Director of Education and Training at Spiritual Health at Emory Healthcare. I've been in this role for about 25 years, and it's been such a gift as an Emory alumni. I first came to Emory from California to do my undergrad work here and then did my seminary training here at Candler School of Theology. So to watch this compassion blossom at Emory has been such an incredible gift. And about 10 years ago, in my role as a chaplain educator, and along with our incredible team of educators in spiritual health at Emory, we were curious about how do we bring more mindfulness into our work as spiritual health clinicians? And we came across right here at Emory CBCT, and we took the course as a whole team and really saw that this had a lot of ways of supporting the education, the master's level training that all of our chaplains who come forward into our training receive, as well as this year of clinical training that they go through our national standards and the indicators and outcomes that we work with to become professional chaplains, as well as people who can bring forward these skills to their faith communities as leaders. And we thought these 8 practices seem to really embody a common language of what we think helps people become really skilled spiritual health clinicians, chaplains. And so after we took this and we started to teach this in our curriculum as a core part of our curriculum, in great collaboration with Timothy Harrison and Lobsang, we're so thankful for this opportunity. Our executive director, Dr. George Grant, who's here, we all came together and said, let's try integrating this. And along with our amazing team of researchers, Dr. Jenny Mascaro and Dr. Chuck Razan, we put together this integration of this CBCT in our curriculum. And then as we started to watch how our folks were starting to live into this, we said, let's see if it makes sense to put together a model where our spiritual health clinicians can use it more consistently in the midst of their everyday work. So we developed a model called Compassion-Centered Spiritual Health. It's a manualized and researched approach to see if this can help support our capacity to be attuned to the care seeker and also take care of ourselves as care responders in the midst of the visit, and to see through that attunement that we feel like the skills of CBCT help attune us to, if it helps us see more clearly and co-create with the care seekers a way to bring forth their resources, their faith resources, so they can bring that more meaningfully forward to their current distress. And so we found that this seems to be of help as we've navigated or put into the model 4 stages of a visit that our spiritual health clinicians can be mindful of to integrate these skills of CBCT in every aspect of the visit, to put their attention both within themselves, where they might need to catch a spark, where they're maybe starting to become judgmental of themselves in a harsh way or judgmental of the other person, to become more aware of that, catch that, come back to some grounding so that they can come back to the attunement and notice the wealth of resources that are already there. And just to briefly, if I may share a brief story about one of our clinicians, for people who are doing our post-residency, we have a 2-year fellowship to become these registered clinicians in this model. This is from one of them. This is a case briefly told. So when she came into a room, she was aware that there was a care seeker that was in distress, who was very angry. And as she prepared herself to ground herself, she came into the room and she was about attuning to the relationship. And as she heard and acknowledged and allowed the person's story, she heard that this distress source seemed to be that he said, I had a miracle in my treatment. I received a miracle. Nobody believes me. Everybody comes back with facts of why I might have received my cure. And it's so frustrating. I don't feel like anybody sees me or acknowledges me. And she could hear the distress of his own experience as well as the judgment he was having of others. And she said, she was aware that she started to get judgmental. She said, just let me come back, see the common humanity here. And she said to him, as she noticed his faith resource, she said, I just hear how valuable prayer is for you. And I wonder, every time you come across somebody who's having trouble taking in your story of your miracle, that using your faith resource of prayer, that you could just take a moment and pause and within yourself say a prayer for them, that they would someday experience that type of connection that you felt with the divine. And he said, I never thought about that. And she said she could feel out of his attunement, his body language giving the message that he was releasing this. And he said, in this entrustment phase of our work, he said, she said, I just invite you to try this on in your daily life and just see if you notice this sense of relief and to see how you're part of this connection with everybody that you encounter, that you are indeed connected and that you belong, and we all belong together. And he stated this relief and that he was going to try to practice this. So the research has shown, and our amazing researchers, in one of the study that was a control group study with folks who've had the CCSH training and folks who didn't, show that those who had the CCSH training, the language in the visits, where they're doing this brilliant breakdown of the linguistics, is that they tend to use more language indicating confidence as well as other-oriented language, so that perhaps this is helping to cultivate this sense of we rather than focusing on I. And the patients who received this care reported decreased levels of depression. So there's a lot more to learn and develop, but again, we are so grateful to be part of this web of CBCT and look forward to the continued unfolding.
Thanks, Maureen. Thank you. Chris, please.
First, just Bill Lobsang, Tim Harrison, just thanks for including me in this program and for the relationship we've had and that we built. You made an enormous difference in my personal life, my professional life. So I thank you all for that. I'm a kidney transplant surgeon is what I do. And I was the director of the Transplant Center, and have returned to being the director of the Transplant Center. And so my whole career has been professional career has been focused on providing care for patients in need of kidney transplants and then helping them get through the journey and then restore to a healthy and hopefully, active and vibrant life. And it's a little unusual for a surgeon to have a team that you're a part of that's focused on really lifelong outcomes. And that has been a great joy for me. And so I'd spent my career helping foster the development of teams of surgeons, nephrologists, nurses, pharmacists, the whole social workers, the whole care team that was needed. But that's a little bit counter to the academic world where we're a department of surgery, a department of medicine. So that was kind of my background. And then I'd served as the department chair of surgery, which was a different role. And I'd seen a different kind of team, a team in the operating room where we assemble for a short period of time, an anesthesiologist, a nurse, a surgeon, a medical student, and we have to all be on the same page. And I'd seen some rooms where the communication was outstanding and we were all able to do our role. And I saw other operating rooms where there was a lot of conflict, a lot of stress, and perhaps somebody with vital knowledge wasn't really given the chance to speak up. And so that was kind of my journey until becoming the dean of the School of Medicine for a time. And the other part of my, bringing what I brought to the meeting with Lobsang was my wife, who is the wiser of the two of us. And whereas I had drive and determination and, cognitive knowledge, she had maybe a depth and an understanding of, the toll that it might take, as she had developed a spiritual practice, a mindfulness practice, a meditation practice, was always the one helping pull me back to life when, I would be maybe charging ahead. And so, we had taken these long drives together and listened to retreats and other, never taken the time to be on one. So in becoming the dean of the School of Medicine, I was extremely fortunate to have as the dean of education, Bill Eley, who I've known since college. And he has, helped nurture the professional development of thousands of medical students and trainees. And so it was a new role for me to think about the education side. I was more of a practitioner. And then the president of the college introduced me to Lobsang, and we started a series of conversations, and I guess maybe the door was open because of my background, but the notion that I could train as a surgeon and the fine movements of my hands or my cognitive abilities to make decisions, I guess I hadn't really contemplated the ability to train in developing capacities of compassion and empathy and appreciation, and that there was the ability to, yes, we have an innate component, but that trained component could be really strengthened. And so out of that came this knowledge of the CBCT program, and I wanted to take the class. My wife wanted to take the class. Bill did. And so we convened the leaders of the School of Medicine and the small group leaders for the teaching of the medical students. And we all took the CBCT training together. And Bill was just reflecting on how meaningful that was, those 8 or 9 sessions that we had with you. And that was the spark that allowed Bill and Ira Schwartz to introduce to the medical students the CBCT training, which has now become a part of the medical school curriculum. So that's kind of...
Chris, let me just editorialize for a minute. So if you've been in medical places, Chris took a lot of really high-powered people who are really busy and really working hard and put them in a room, and we put up away all our phones and we turned off our beepers for 2 hours for 9 weeks in a row. I've never been in anything like it in medicine since. To have all those things quieted so that we could be together in a meaningful way. And I just got to say, it was magical. Like I said, I've not experienced anything like that in medicine. Part of that was, of course, Lobsang was there. We'll say preaching, but He is a spiritual man, and he transmits that very well. And he was mesmerizing to us. We started talking about things that we had not talked about ever in our medical school. And it was absolutely transformative. And I think Chris has good innate in him. Everybody on the stage has good innate in them. But this practice of CBCT has elevated it. And let me add on just a minute. You all realize medicine is a mess. Our educational colleagues have talked about how much a mess their education spaces are, with teachers running full tilt just to try to keep their head above water. Medicine is the same. There are people working extremely hard, day and night, many hours a week, with all sorts of pressures amidst, and I describe it as this cauldron of suffering. I think, Lisa, your book, you describing being on your early experience being on a ward with people who were ill mentally. We've all experienced that as practitioners. It is such a heavy load on our spirits. And yet you decided to have Yom Kippur. And you talked about the transformation on the patients when we took time to actually think about, embrace our spiritual side, if you will, or our compassionate side. So could you, the people who haven't read her book, if you have, this is redundant, but this was an amazing thing she did. And she was open to listening to the results. So just tell people about that.
Thank you. I was an intern. I'd just gotten my PhD, and I was on a hospital unit in New York, which served people in tremendous pain. The files, we weren't digitized yet, were this thick. And when they got so big that the file wouldn't hold a second file, sometimes a third would be formed. It was a revolving door. And I could see that there was yet to be a completeness in how we reached people, how even living with illness shouldn't be a period at the end of the sentence, but we could still have profound meaning and uplift in our life, but it wasn't working. So long and the short, the high holidays rolled around. I'm Jewish, and a fellow raised his hand at community meeting and said, "What are we doing for Yom Kippur?" And the very kind unit chief felt badly, and she said, "I'm sorry, there's nothing planned for Yom Kippur." He was bipolar. He said, "What?" The pain he felt for not having a Yom Kippur service. What? And he got explosive, terribly upset, and left. A very depressed woman slouched. And it occurred to me the patients wanted a time of worship. A patients wanted a spiritual coming together. So we did hold a Yom Kippur service. We held it in the linoleum kitchen on the unit. And what was found was that as we went through the prayers, that every one of those patients, all their lives, once a year, had said there was a reawakening. And quite remarkably, the lights came back on. The sun came through these beautiful souls. And whatever the symptom, the explosiveness, the depression and shame, they emerged equal and opposite in the other direction. So it was the bipolar gentleman who'd exploded that led us through the cadence of the Yom Kippur prayers. And the woman who'd felt such shame and guilt knocked on my door 3 days later and said, "Dr. Miller, I just wanted to remind you that we can all be forgiven."
Another touching part of that story was you actually used the book, the prayer book that had been handed down to you from your elders.
My grandmother's. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a connection that is so touching, for all of us. Lobsang, I want to ask you a question now. And you've helped teach in the School of Medicine. You've taught a lot of caregivers now, nurses, doctors. What are your observations of the caregivers? And please speak freely. But you have got such wisdom and have given us such gifts. What do you think about the folks who are caring for people and their needs and how CBCT may meet their needs?
Thank you, Bill. I want to first of all, thank Dr. Miller for really very inspiring talk and for coming here. I know that how busy you are, and you were at White House yesterday presenting on spirituality and mental health, and to get on the plane this morning, 6 o'clock, and then be here for us. So thank you so much.
Honor.
Really, really.
So,
What do I see in caregivers, and how the work of compassion relates to it? If I can digress a little bit, back in 2002, I was giving a talk in San Antonio at the medical school there, and Dr. Ibrahim Verghese, that's yeah, he's also like Dr. Miller, author of bestseller. He told me something that really shocked me, and he said that of all the professionals in America, the profession that has the most struggle with mental health, including suicide, is the physicians, the healthcare. I was a monk then, and still quite young at the time. That was not what I was expecting, and I did ask him, what makes that the case for the care providers. I was thinking that because they face the stress, the illness day after day, maybe that's what. But what he told me, and I think that I've come to believe in that, and that is that he said that our medical training does not provide students how to manage their emotions. They teach about the medicine, the treatment, but when they are out in the world, we are emotional beings. That we heard this morning, that we have this reptilian brain that receives the information whether something is threat or the, health. And then so it's when you are dealing with the day in and out, really stressful people who are in the most vulnerable moment of their lives, patients, that it's not easy. And I think that if emotions build up, and if you are not able to regulate those emotions, it can become the source of many of the problems. So I think that really stuck with me, and it was in 2013 when President Wagner, our University President Chris just mentioned, said that Dean Larsen from the medical school wants you to bring CBCT, because President Wagner was a big champion of CBCT. He really believed in it. And I was wondering, in the medical school, so I met with Chris. And the thing is that when I studied teaching in medical school, you remember those first 8 or 9 sessions going each of the module. We had 2 hours, like that. We would, I will give this preaching, I'll preach, and then we'll meditate, and we'll
the best there ever has been, love.
So in the beginning, after that, I've been teaching ever since. Every semester I taught, and now it's with Bill also. In the beginning, I went there to, think that, yes, I'm going to help these caregivers how to have the compassion, how to build compassion. It didn't take much time for me to realize that actually you are the compassionate ones. You went into this, profession because of the compassion. But it is true that it's hard to sustain compassion. So it's not my role or our CBCT teachers or anyone, spirituality, to really to teach something new, but rather it's about how to maintain that compassion. And I think it has been very humbling for me, and really a privilege to work with the medical school here. And you're right, I do teach in other places also. But I'll share some others if we have time later on. But I will end with this part here, that bringing compassion to the healthcare professionals, the people who are responsible for keeping us alive, keeping us healthy. That in the most difficult moments we turn to the doctors. In the Tibetan world, that spiritual masters are, revered. The kings are the who, in ancient world, kings will be the people that we will admire. But whether it's the spiritual teacher or the king, they rely on the physicians, because we all are human beings. We all get sick. With the part of being a human being is that we get old, we get sick, and then when we are in that vulnerable moments, you all are there. They're keeping. So bringing the compassion, however little it may have helped, it has been one of the greatest privileges for me.
Thank you. And I think working in CBCT, some of the things that I've found amazing about it is that it really does deal with some of the things that physicians deal with our chaplains and our nurses and everyone. One is that very basic, that suffering is going to occur, and that we are not responsible for that suffering occurring. We are using our cognitive part of our brain and melding it with that compassion, that warm-heartedness for others, so that we can do our very best in the context of one human to help relieve their suffering or prevent their suffering. It also teaches about self-compassion, which I've told you on people who care for people. This is something to study. I think wherever in our brain is this part that makes us native compassion is also self-recrimination. I think we are hard on ourselves natively. And I think teaching people self-compassion or in healthcare is perhaps the greatest gift of the class. I think you're exactly right. It's just so good to hear Lobsang hear that after he comes and says, you all are really compassionate. We said, thank goodness. Right? It's almost an outside person saying that. It makes us, we are. There's so many things that go into being with people who are sick. But I think CBC addresses that. The suffering, but it's not all our fault. That we need to be kind to ourselves. And I think the ultimate gift is, and this is the Dalai Lama's words, sort of our compassion is good for others and is good for us. And I think in medicine, people tend to start withdrawing from their compassion. They tend to think of it as not a good thing because they get too involved. And in my life and working with people, I think it's quite the opposite. The more we care, the more our patients are appreciative of us. And those gifts, and I know, Chris, when you walk in and see urine flowing through a kidney you've just transplanted, you've talked about that joy that you've given somebody is, in essence, a healthy life back. When you've gone in, when your students go in and have these interactions with people and they say, I feel heard, I feel better. And when you have a Yom Kippur service and it transforms these lives, these are all of us using our creativity, which is right, accelerated when we're spiritual or compassionate, really is a driving force. I think the course, and it is a spiritual course, CBCT at its core, these things lead us to a better life in medicine, which is a rich life and a wonderful life. Did I leave out gratitude? It also talks about gratitude in the course and how perfect that is. So I'd like to, and just conversationally, I'm not going to ask individually, how do you feel like this has affected your spiritual life, your CBCT life, how has it affected your approach to being a caregiver? Look back. Feel where you are. What has it done?
I'm just briefly, I remember when I first took CBCT as someone who has been very grateful to have been in touch with my spiritual core for throughout my childhood and into my adulthood. And what it did is it helped me access through the settling of my distress and the self-compassion, which gives more spaciousness, more avenues to access my tradition in a way that has brought me even more gifts. And we've heard our learners say that, we've heard the staff we interact with as we bring forward this and share in the common language of CBCT across the hospital, that's what a lot of folks report about their spiritual practice, that they can gain more access to it through this practice. And I've certainly gotten that relief.
I think, just in daily life, caring for patients, the things that I felt a change in was the way I would approach getting ready to go into the operating room. So, as the chair, as the dean, the people know where to find you, and they usually come with problems, and that's the job, right? Your job is to solve people's problems. But when you're at a scrub sink and you're about to, wash your hands and go in and do surgery for a patient, you're actually not supposed to be solving everyone else's problems. Your focus, your sole focus needs to be on that patient, on that room. And so in the process of that CBCT, I started to change that practice, that no one could talk to me about anything other than that patient at that moment. And I would try to have a pause in going in a room, before going in a room, to pause before you open the door, to think, where am I? What am I here for? And I think those practices of focus, attention, and then bringing compassion to that too, particularly with the patients with the most challenging problems, I think were changes that I made that, have made the practice of medicine, far richer, and I think a better practitioner as well of medicine.
Lisa?
It's my experience that as healers, we can go right up to the edge of where we are in our journey with the client, and then one heal strike more. And so in my work training emergent therapists and people of service, I focus 80% on their own spiritual spaciousness, their own register of experience, and authorizing ourselves as knowers, viewing ourselves as an open system through which we can feel the guidance, the love, the direction of the universe, and know that information is real.
Well, I'm not a physician,
You are a caregiver, sir.
but I would say that, whether we are in the healthcare, the teachers, parents, whatever profession we are, I think compassion has to do with, first and foremost, a sense of tenderness, warm-heartedness that Dr. Brooks talked about this morning. Dr. Miller mentioned about warm-heartedness, sewa in Tibetan word, sewa, that radiates from your heart. We can feel when someone is relating to you with that tenderness, warm-heartedness, or a certain coldness, indifference, or maybe even animosity, and like that. That's what puts you at ease. I think that is the most beautiful thing, and that's why when Buddha said that, what is it, that one value? If you have it in your palms, all the other virtues and values are present in your palm. And he said it's the great compassion. Great compassion. Compassion, yes, we all have innate compassion, for our children, for our parents, very close ones. Great compassion is compassion that is, to some degree, extended, what His Holiness calls the extended compassion. And I think that is what is the real secret of our well-being, like that tenderness, if we can radiate towards each other. I was going to say, I cannot not mention this one. I'm going to take this opportunity, if you don't mind. I want to really thank our friends from India, the Piramal Foundation, Karuna, and then all the other C-Learning CBCT affiliates from around the world. But the work they are doing is amazing. I get to travel and see what they are doing. I was in a place called the Sitamarhi, which is in the poorest state called Bihar in India, the most impoverished. In that, the Piramal Foundation brought compassion, CBCT, to public hospital. In this hospital that used to be very, very in chaotic state, like not only the lack of resources, but also added problems for them. They brought the CBCT there. I had the opportunity to go there. The doctors, the nurses, the others, gatekeepers, in tears, they say that they are seeing the day and night difference. And I was wondering, what is that? What is that making? I asked the teachers, that some of them are here, and they said that, what did you do? How did you teach CBCT? When I teach, I don't see that transformation. The media, the systems level, like there, what did you do? And they said that in the CBCT, we had first module called the nurturing moment. The nurturing moment is about, connecting to a moment when you felt seen, when you felt nurtured, comforted, and that's what they created, and then give the opportunity to share. Where they brought the lowest, the janitor to the CEO on the same floor. They sat and shared, and that's what transformed. And that hospital being that, even in that state, lowest in the rank, to become in a year and few months, recognized as the best. Yes. Even in the nation, getting award for that reserve for the top 5 level. And this is the work of our, many of you are here. I want to just take this opportunity to thank you for believing in this. Thank you for being part of this. We're just beginning. There's much more work needed, but I want to thank you for being part of this.
And thanks to all you all. That was a great way to close Lobsang as usual. And one of the reasons it benefits us so much to be in this space is the people from all over the world who have moved things forward, and the lessons we learned from our colleagues in India and Vietnam and all over the world. It is an international movement now. And again, so grateful for you all to be with me personally, but also active in the world to make this world a better place. So thank you.
So thank you so much to our panelists. You can feel free to go ahead. Because it came up naturally in the panel, I just wanted to mention how timely, as they said, it is that Yom Kippur begins today, because the holiest of Jewish holidays, calls for reflection, forgiveness, and reconciliation, and is really an invitation for all of us to be more compassionate to ourselves and others. So regardless of your faith, take that forward, and anyone observing Yom Kippur, thank you for being here today, and have a great holiday. I just want to conclude these whole 2 days of talks. It's been so amazing to have you all here with us. We've heard some incredible speakers and had people from all over the world come and share their stories. So thank you all for being a part of it. We've seen across both conversations yesterday and today that compassion is not confined to one field or one role. It's really the thread that connects business and leadership, healthcare and education, personal well-being, and collective flourishing. Again and again throughout every talk, we have heard that compassion is necessary for a world that longs to heal, to grow, and to thrive. And so as you all go back out into your lives, into your day, I want to leave you all with this question is, how will each of you continue to carry this forward? How will we infuse compassion more deeply into our work and our commitments and our daily lives? The future is being shaped in our hospitals, our classrooms, our boardrooms, our families, and in every encounter we have. So together, collectively, we are creating a more compassionate and ethical world for all. So thank you all for being part of this movement with us to advance a global culture of compassion and for joining the compassion shift. Thank you.